Hello there, this is Michael from Make It WordPress and I'm on the quest to find the best of WordPress. And today I'm looking into a very interesting tool. It's a plugin that you can use to set up your own hosting business. This plugin is called WPCloudDeploy. I have considered this before, I've gone through this before, but a lot of features have been changed, a lot of features have been added, the design is improved, so I'm going through the whole plugin again and see all the kind of features it has to offer. So if you're already using WordPress and want to use a WordPress plugin to set up your own WordPress hosting business, to spin up cloud servers, to spin up WordPress websites, this is an amazing thing. So let's look at it. All right, so from time to time I revisit some of the things I reviewed, and in this case I'm revisiting WPCloudDeploy. I already reviewed this I think 2 years ago, but a lot of new features came out and this is a very interesting piece of software. Because what is WPCloudDeploy? It is actually, as they state in the website, a self-hosted WordPress manager for agencies and power users. In other words, it's a WordPress plugin that allows you to install and manage your own servers and also install and manage your own WordPress website. Basically, it's a WordPress plugin that allows you to set up your own hosting business. It has various pricing models and it works together with various server providers, which you already may know. As you can see, you need an additional server provider, an external server provider, which will provide the actual server in combination of this plugin, which will set up all necessary software to have an optimized server and also to run WordPress websites. And well, it's actually a great plugin, I think, and these are the price levels. You can also see them on the website WPCloudDeploy. There are a couple of features in this plugin which are notable. As you can see, it's a WordPress plugin, so it's based on WordPress. If you know WordPress, you will recognize this interface here on the left, and what it basically does is makes it very easy for you to manage servers. With all these technical details, we will be going through them later when I go through all the features step by step. You can manage a site with it and have actually all the necessary features for that. The good thing is that it's actually built into WordPress, so you can also install other WordPress plugins, and at last it has a couple of other benefits. So you may be thinking a plugin to manage servers and to manage WordPress websites, will it be safe? Well, actually this plugin is audited by external safety teams, and it came out to be very secure. So this can be a very secure way to run your WordPress websites on. The odd thing is that you still need to have a WordPress installation already running to install this plugin on, so you cannot use the plugin itself, obviously, to set up a WordPress website. So that's the odd thing. I already prepared a website where this plugin is running, and let's go through it and see how it works. Alrighty, so here I'm at a different tab, and this is WordPress installation, and in this WordPress installation I freshly installed the WPCloudDeploy plugin, and that plugin allows me to set up my own hosting company. Amazing. At least to manage servers and WordPress installations. For that, the first thing you need to do is go to the WPCloudDeploy tab and then go to the settings, and which are a lot of settings, and you have to set up your cloud providers. By default, DigitalOcean is supported with the basic subscription, but if you go for a more elaborate subscription, other cloud providers are also supported. And in this case, I'm really a big fan of Upcloud, which is a European-based cloud provider focusing on 100% uptime. Your servers will always be online. Some of their server parks are sustainable, and they also have a very fair pricing. Nevertheless, you can link them here, so you need an account at DigitalOcean or Upcloud to be able to spin up servers. So I filled in my details in here, and it's now connected to this external server provider. So in this video, I won't be explaining this process into detail. You can view the documentation of WPCloudDeploy if you want to look into the details and see how connecting a cloud provider actually looks like. And again, you need an external cloud provider, that can provide your the service in combination with this plugin. So now that this connection is clear, how does it actually look like? In there, I already booted one server on which I can install WordPress. I can see a few of these details for the server, and let's deploy a new one. So clicking on this command will open up various settings in which we can actually choose our OS, our web server. And great thing is that in the beta version, WPCloudDeploy is also going to support Open Lightspeed. This is a different kind of a web server which is known for its performance. I have another video about the performance difference of Open Lightspeed and Nginx. You can always look it up if you like it. Nevertheless, we'll go with Nginx here. There is only one provider connected here, so it will be Upcloud, and I will be choosing a server location somewhat more close to my home, and we'll just be booting the smallest server. And then I click deploy, and this server is going to be deployed. This will take some time, usually up to 5 to 10 minutes at least, because the server needs to be booted and all server needs to be installed. And it's actually this will automatically create a server. I don't need to go to my server provider and boot the server there, because the connection is led. It will automatically boot up the server. So in the meantime, while we're waiting for this, we will just look at our existing server and see all the settings and features you have in there. So I've opened up a new tab, and as you can see, there's another server test here, and an operation is in progress, so we cannot do anything in here. And let's look in our existing server, and as you can see, there's a lot in here, from the server name, the provider, the region, the number of apps or installations it's running on. So the IP address is existing in here. You can group servers, you can add a server owner, assign a team, set up a certain snapshot schedule. Unfortunately, this provider connection doesn't allow that, but other providers that does have server snapshots will provide a snapshot schedule, basically a kind of backup of your server. Next to it, you can also set up backups from WPCloudDeploy itself, and also set a periodic restart, and a lot more is possible in here. So if you look on the left, these are all the tabs of the different settings you can set up for your server, and it's honestly a lot. From the core services, such as a firewall, your web server, which you need to run a website, and your database, which you also need for WordPress. You need a database and a web server, basically. In this case, they're using MariaDB to a video scanner, which is also possible to install on this server, and I think this is a great feature. You need a bigger server for this, so this is a small server, and actually it's too small for using a video scanner, but it's great that this is already there. It makes your server so more secure. And at last, most of these servers, they won't be sending emails by default, and it's a good practice that you use an external email server to be able to send emails originating from your servers, and you can set up the details in here. Why do you want that? You may be wondering. Well, WordPress, for example, uses emailing a lot. For example, if you have form on your website, but also for example, the password reset emails, and that's why you need it in here. And at last, we have our PHP processes. You can install various versions of PHP and also restart the existing running services. And as you can see, multiple versions are supported in here. Alrighty, so there are a lot of other sets. In callbacks, you can see actually the status of your server, so some information about updates and restarts that are required. And The neat thing about WPCloudDeploy is that it's overwhelming, but there's a lot of information in the panel itself, which explains what is what. So in this case, what are callbacks? It's explained in here, really nice. So by default, uncomplicated firewalls installed by WPCloudDeploy. Basically, it is part of most Linux installations, and it will allow you to add additional closed or opened ports for additional safety. You can set up backups to AWS by default. It's also possible to use other services, but not from the interface itself yet. Unfortunately, for that, you need to use the command line and set it up in a more difficult way, actually. But in here, you can set up backups to AWS and also set up a retention and a schedule. Backups are always advised, so it's a good thing to set us up. For healing, you can set up an external script called Monit, which is basically a monitoring script for a server, and in it you can see various usage metrics. Yeah, you can install it in here and it will open up the monitoring. You need to connect a subdomain to the server and I'll set up your username and password. You can also configure where to email alerts from Monit and also connect it to the external dashboard. External dashboard is a central place for your monitoring. So that's a very useful feature as well. Because there are so many features in this, and I don't want to make the video too long. I will going through the next part, but if you want to know more about Monit, I suggest you check it out and also view the documentation of WPCloudDeploy and also the website of Monit itself. So there is an SSH console actually in here, and this is a direct connection to your server. So it is actually very dangerous because you can completely destroy your server if you know the correct commands, but you can obviously use it, and it can be useful in some ways. Some statistics in which you see the visitors, the amount of space available in blocks actually, and also the output of the top command, which is a basic command that is used by Linux to see all your processes and what is used. So as you can see, WPCloudDeploy has a very technical approach, and if you're really new to hosting and servers and you're watching this video, you may think, what is he talking about? I can imagine that. So this is also more geared towards some more advanced users, but if you're a bit familiar with it, this plugin gives a lot of options. Nevertheless, there are some tools in which you can clean up some things and set the default PHP versions for any application on your side. You can do some tweaks. It's not very extensive now here, but gzip, you can enable it, which will compress the responses from the server and make your websites actually a bit faster. You can see all the updates that needs to be here and run security updates or all the updates, for example. Then you can see all sites connected to the server. You can also restart it or shut down it if you need to do some maintenance or restart some services. Furthermore, you can define the root user for this server and create a password. So by default, if you create a new server, WPCloudDeploy will ask you to set up SSH keys, and you can use SSH to log into your server. But in here, you can also manage actually password-based logins. Here you can download some logs related to all of your servers. As you can see, quite some logs, either anything you like. You can set up fail to ban, and this is a thing I would advise you, because usually when a server is online, a lot of people you don't want to try to log into your server. Brute force your server, fail to ban, a lot of safety to that by blocking repeatedly logins and so forth. Obviously, if you do something wrong, you can also be banned from your own server. So use this with caution. In here, you can set up SSH keys for your root server if they will be different than the common ones. You can also set up monitor rigs, which is another monitoring tool for your server, especially the disk and CPU usage. A similar thing is net data. I like net data a lot. I've been using it on another servers, and this will give very nice real-time data. Please check out the website if you want to know more about net data, their own website, which is on netdata.cloud. But it's there, so you may already be familiar with it. Well, there's also this service called Go Access, which is an open source log analyzer and can give you valuable insights about what's happening in your logs. You can also set it up in this view, and usually you can resize your server in here, but this provider is not supporting that, so I need to log in at my server provider and manually resize my server over there. Other providers will support this, by the way, and you can also set up snapshots if your server provider supports this. In this case, it doesn't. It has a different way of doing backups. And at last, a very interesting feature, and this is amazing, I think, is that you can sync a server to another server. So I can now click another test server and say how often this needs to be synced, and it will basically copy the complete server to all the other servers. And this is very interesting if you want to have a high availability setup. So if one server goes down, you'll switch over to the other server and the website will stay online. Phew, so that was a lot already, and these were only the server settings. So let's look into a couple of other things we have in here. We can group them, and then we have apps, basically your WordPress website. So installing WordPress is pretty easy. You click on Add or Install WordPress. Somehow there's a bug in here because I'm now going to the wrong screen. Let's try it again. Click Install WordPress. That's weird. All right, so I have a problem because I want to add WordPress, but it doesn't allow me to. All right, here we go. Let's install WordPress. It's quite simple. Click on Install WordPress. This will open up a new tab, and then you can install WordPress under the server actions. A bit cumbersome. I didn't figure this out in the first time, as you noticed, but if you click on this button, an installer will open and you can just enter your domain. It is useful that if you're entering a domain, it already points to the server IP in here. So in your domain, at your domain register, use this IP to point the domain towards this server. So it will work at the moment. And you can just fill in your details in here. Add an admin address and also specify the WordPress version you're going to install and click install. And then the installer will open. The WordPress installation process is taking place. And in the meantime, we'll be going to the installation of a WordPress site I already installed. And we have some nice notifications, some logging what has been happening, and our WordPress installation is ready, and we can already visit it at the given address. Well, nevertheless, let's look at our existing WordPress website, which is already installed. And basically, when you install a new WordPress website, you'll go through a wizard in which you can set up your username, the domain, and so forth, all of these details, and then you'll end up at this screen, and it will take a very short time. The great thing is that we can log in on admin using this button, and it will open up our destination login, and you can also see the front end. In here there are also a lot of settings, and on the right we can also group this WordPress installation, change the owner, apply delete protection, or assign a certain theme, which I will explain later. The interesting thing is that we can also save a site as a template. And this is another feature which is an extension of WPCloudDeploy, and saving it as a template allows you to use that template for other sites you're going to add. You can also do site synchronization in here to another server. So this site will be synced to another server. Again, very nice for high availability. And also the app owner. You can set up permissions like you can set up using teams and app owners. You can set up the permissions that only people who own a site can see and access it. That in general is a very great thing of WPCloudDeploy. You can set up almost anything. Again, here is a backup setup, and obviously in here you need to set up backups on a global level before this is possible. You can set up SSL for your website. You can enable page caching, which will make it a lot faster, and also use memcache for object caching. Set up an SFTP user so you can log in using a file manager. Set up staging for a website, testing or development site, and after you created staging, you can use that to copy details from your staging to your live site. Very useful. You can clone a site to a new domain name. There are some hints in it how you should approach it, and you can also copy the site to another existing site, and that will overwrite that existing site. And here are a lot of tools for copying, such as syncing, copy just the database files. Only partial database is very useful for development. You can also copy to another server. Very useful if you want to move sites over. Cron jobs is something that's used to run regular jobs, and WordPress does this in a bit awkward way. And in here you can set it up in the Linux way, and this is a better way actually, and a very nice. This feature is here with just a click of a button. Well, we can change our PHP version, also restart the service, and some of our common PHP options. If you're not familiar with it, usually you have options such as the maximum file size you can upload, the maximum execution time. These are these settings you most likely would like to set in here. And also the work setting, which is very important for dynamic websites. Usually this is a good setting, but these settings are dependent on the amount of cores your server has. And recommendations also vary, whether you're having an e-commerce website or just a plain website. You need to have different kind of values for these things. But there are a lot of articles about it on the internet. So then you can change the main domain of this website, and this will also do a search and replace in the database of this existing website. So this domain will also be updated. Very nice feature. And there are some other initial credentials. Here you can see the credentials for your login. Password protect your site and your login, and also disable the site and so forth. Obviously, you can also delete your site if you like, and disable our HTTPS directions. We have some tweaks also in here by which the security of your site can be improved. This is also very nice because these are the most common security features you want to enable. There are some performance tweaks, and you can also change the upload styles without changing your PHP parameters. So pretty cool. Some tools in here. Permissions is usually a thing that goes wrong and gives errors when you want to upload new media to WordPress. And there are some other things in here which you can set up. Then we have site updates, in which we can manage our WordPress updates. Very nice. From this dashboard in it, you can install PHP-My-Admin to access our database and configure some things in it. So it's a lot. You can set up a firewall, either the 6G or 7G firewall, which will give additional security. This is a web application firewall, so it will block malicious requests on application level. Obviously, there are also some statistics in here. That's a very basic statistics in the files used by this plugin. You can download any of these logs related to this application. You can add new administrators to your WordPress installation, also change existing credentials. Very useful if you are locked out of WordPress somehow. In here you can change some of these details which are usually set up in WP debug. And this is, I think, also great because you don't need to manually log into your server, but you can just set it up in here. And especially memory, max memory limit is something that is often changed, especially for larger websites that need more memory to function properly. Another great thing is that you can set up redirect rules. So redirect a certain URL of this website to another URL. And at last you can define support for multi-site. All right, so what does a website look like, which is deployed by WPCloudDeploy? Well, it's very simple. So just install a regular WordPress website. So what else do we have? So we have themes, and in this feature we can add any user outside ourselves and give them exact permissions. Very useful. And why this is very useful is because we're using WordPress. We can add any user on our website, here in users, and give them access to certain servers, certain websites. And in this way you can use WPCloudDeploy to set up your own hosting business and give clients or other developers access to certain websites. And obviously, because this is your own WordPress installation, you can install other plugins, you can install custom code to modify the whole look of this site and basically convert it into one very nice looking client panel. And that's actually what a lot of other companies that are using WPCloudDeploy did. There are a couple of hosting companies using this, and they totally tweaked this to their own likings. And because these companies were already using WordPress, it was very easy for them and very manageable for them to set it up. And yeah, anyway, you can add users in here, set their permissions. You can also add multiple users and so forth. Another thing is that you can see all the SSH comments that are processed on your server, and you can see all the logs, so you can see what's happening on your servers. Very useful. Again, you can also see what commands have been executed. You can see if there are any pending tasks. Basically, the pending tasks are updates or installation of a server. You can see if they're here and whether they're still pending or complete. Furthermore, you can set up error logs. It's empty now, but you can also set it up in your general settings, how you want error logs to be processed. Then there's a nice little dashboard with some of the alerts from servers. You can see all tasks such as WP updates, warning alerts, sites that don't have any SSL, and servers which have security updates. It's even interactive, so you can filter any of the servers. Furthermore, you can see statistics. These are basically administration statistics, what operations are executed, SSL updates, and so forth. So a bit similar to charts, but a different kind of display. Yeah, so in reporting groups, we can also actually group our reportings and notifications. And then in schedules, we can set up schedules, and these schedules can be used for example, setting up backups or snapshots. In here, you can see any snapshots that were made by the WP Cloud plugin. Snapshots are basically a snapshot of the current state of a server, and these are used by many server providers and can be used to backup servers and also restore them if something goes wrong. There's a lot of documentation on the website of WPCloudDeploy itself, and luckily there are a couple of links in here. I think WPCloudDeploy is very much geared towards developers and WordPress developers also. And there's a lot of stuff in this documentation for developers, how you can add custom functionality, set up things, the best practices, and so forth. Then we come to the settings tab. If you're still with me, this is a very elaborate video in which I went actually through all the features of WPCloudDeploy step by step, and there are a couple of features I still want to show you. Let's just briefly go through all the settings that are in here. Well, we explained this earlier in the video. Furthermore, you can set up some default settings for WordPress, like the default OS, what kind of web server you're using, some of the apps option, what do you want to show and what do you want to hide, so you can actually modify this to your liking already. Also, which WP versions are allowed in new sites. Yeah, you can also do some scheduling when you want to restart services and select one of the schedules we watched before. Also what you want to do, like delete protection for new servers and so forth. Again, sites have also these options, and the very interesting thing in here is that you can set this quota for each new site. So you can say a site can be a maximum of this size in MB, and this is very useful if you want to have multiple sites on one server and work also with multiple sites. In this, you can set up your general S3 credentials, and these can be used to set up backups also in your site. There are some other settings related to fields and links, plugin and themes update. There is an image comparing functionality into WPCloudDeploy, and you need to use an external service for it called HTML, CSS to image, and what this does is when you click the update button in the site before, it will compare the look of a site before the updates and after the updates, and if there are a lot of changes, so it doesn't look the same, it will roll back changes. Very interesting. You can connect to Cloudflare for your DNS settings. So basically a domain has DNS settings, and you use the DNS settings to connect the domain to your server. A server usually has an IP address, and you need to connect this IP address to your domain. And you can automate this to some extent using this functionality. Obviously, you need to have a Cloudflare account and connect it using an API token. And then you can set up the email notification for users. If you set up a notification profile and use some of these tags, it's very interesting if you want to direct notifications to users if something is happening on their server, if they create a new server, and so forth. Furthermore, you can connect actually Slack notifications in your service. For that, you need a certain, usually you need to set up a certain Slack or webhook, but then you can define the message in here. Similar for Zapier, you can set up some basic styles in here. Set up your default email gateway. We talked about this external email before. Set up some fields that are visible on the front end. Also, WPCloudDeploy has a REST API. It's still in beta, but you can use the REST API to build an external application that can talk with WPCloudDeploy. For example, if you want to build a totally custom Cloud panel, you can use the REST API for that. You can white label this plugin, so it is clear that it's not part of WPCloudDeploy, but users logging into your site have a totally white label custom view, and it can change a lot of colors by default. And obviously, if you have WordPress developing powers, you can go totally overboard with your own custom plugins. You can set up some custom bash scripts in here that are executed after server provisioning and site provisioning. Furthermore, you can set up a secrets for your API key. If you use a secrets manager, you can put it in here and make it somewhat more safe to use private API keys. There's some power tools to hide some stuff. I'll set up some of these settings in the overview. I also installed a plugin which allows you to actually sell your services. For this, you need to have WooCommerce installed. Here you can set up a couple of general settings, such that that users should ask for domain name and password and so forth. I'll explain to you that later, because this is a very nice feature which allow you to connect WooCommerce to WPCloudDeploy to sell your sites. So that's a very powerful feature which you can use to sell your sites and set up a hosting business. And the same settings you have for services, so you can either sell sites or servers. And here are some other options. If we look to security, we can actually set up some access for various tabs. So we could say people that own a site can see these tabs, or they cannot. And again, we can apply that for a site and server owners. So someone who's owning a server, would he or she be able to see these tabs? And similar goes for servers. You can also enable or disable features for production staging sites and also service. And not all of these things you can switch in here, but a few of these things. Again, in this other tab, you can see which fields are appearing in a column. For example, you can hide the short description column, save our settings. And then in our cloud service, this short description should be gone, actually. There's some miscellaneous settings for cache limit and some of these advanced settings. You can hide the default provider and so forth. You can set up logging and tracing in here for all kind of logs, but it will have some influence on your database. There's some tools to clean up your applications and service, and of course, obviously, if you have a license, you need to put it in here. And at last, very interesting is that you can have data syncing, so you can have WPCloudDeploy on 2 different services and then connect them in here. So you always have these settings backed up somewhere else. Right, so these are already a lot of settings. This was a lot to take in. This plugin has also so many features that I'm always a bit overwhelmed. I think that's an advantage, because if you're used to this interface, you can set up a lot of things. And then on the other end, it can be a bit confusing, and also the user experience can be a bit overwhelming, because you can basically enable or disable anything. And information is grouped on many places. You have apps and app groups, and they're all together in one submenu, for example. Yeah, that can be a bit confusing, but that also has to do with the nature of WordPress and how WordPress is set up. And because it is a WordPress plugin, the design is a bit limited to the WordPress setup. Other thing I want you to show is that in here you can see a couple of notifications. So next to the other logs we have here are some notifications. We can also set up notification profiles. These profiles are actually used to set notifications. So for monitoring, very useful. So we can set up, for example, an email address, a name for the notification, also a webhook. And actually, something happens, for example, in any of these categories, I will get a notification to this email address or to this Slack webhook. And Slack is a chat app. It will basically push a message into this channel, into this chat app. And you can also see the history of all notifications sent. So another thing I wanted you to show is the link with WooCommerce, and I added a WordPress site in here. So this is basically a WordPress product, and in here there's a WordPress server setting and a WordPress site setting, and I can basically list this product. And what this will do is actually create a product. I'm not sure if this template is supporting WooCommerce. I don't think it really is. I didn't set payments as well. But what basically is happening is that someone can order this product. And once this product is has been ordered, a new site will be created in the backend. And the user is registered on this website, on the front side, can then access this site and manage it. So this is connection between WPCloudDeploy and WooCommerce, and allows you to set up a paid hosting service pretty rapidly. Anyhow, this was it concerning the features of WPCloudDeploy. I will be testing the performance later on, so you can actually see how it's doing in practice. The neat thing is that I had some contact with the owner of WPCloudDeploy, and he's a great guy. It's also possible to have a one-on-one demo with WPCloudDeploy. So if this video has been a bit abstract, if it's not clear how it exactly works, go to WPCloudDeploy.com and schedule a demo, and you can, like, the owner itself can also explain the real powers of WPCloudDeploy. I think this product has a lot of potential. It's a very interesting way that you can set up a hosting service using a WordPress plugin. So you use this plugin to manage servers from providers such as Upcloud, DigitalOcean, and so forth. It gives a lot of opportunity because you can just use WordPress and the WordPress skills you already have to extend this process, to modify this dashboard, to modify it for all your clients and logins. Obviously, you can use users in here, and there are various roles in it which you can add. There are some roles added by WPCloudDeploy, and you can also manage your roles if you would like to. Actually, that's great, and it gives you a lot of possibilities. It will save you a lot of time, because if you want to manually build something like this will take a lot of time. I'm very curious what you think about WPCloudDeploy, and otherwise feel free to try them out. I hope you liked WPCloudDeploy and this walkthrough. It may be a bit overwhelming at first. There are so many options, but I believe this plugin is really powerful. And if you're already familiar with WordPress, if you already are a WordPress developer, this plugin can give you a lot of tools and a lot of opportunities to run your own WordPress hosting business, and also to run your own WordPress websites. So have fun trying it out. There's a link to WPCloudDeploy beneath this video, and if you have any questions, comments, or anything else, please leave it below. And by the way, there's also an elaborate review with some more performance testing, how well this plugin does in terms of load testing, loading speed, and so forth. This review can be found also in the description. Thank you for watching, and have an amazing day.